Okay, picture this. August 1st, 2024. You're on a state-of-the-art research vessel, maybe 30 miles off the California coast.
Deep water territory.
Exactly, 3,500 feet down. And you're using these autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, sweeping the seabed.
Right, places no one's really looked before with this kind of tech.
And the sonar pings back. The screens light up with a shape, a silhouette that, well, according to the history books, just shouldn't exist.
Yeah, something impossible, really.
It's a ship that was officially sunk, scuttled by her own crew way back in 1942.
Declared lost, struck from the register, officially gone.
But then she comes back, resurrected by the enemy, Imperial Japan, and sailed for 2 years. Imagine Allied pilots seeing her deep in enemy waters, thinking they were literally hallucinating, seeing ghosts.
It's an unbelievable story, and this discovery, it really does force us to revisit a truly bizarre, complex part of the Pacific War.
So that's what we're doing today. A deep dive into the USS Stewart. Her designation was DD-224. She holds this, unique and kind of chilling title, the only American warship ever captured and actually operated by Imperial Japan.
The ghost ship of the Pacific, that's what they called her, and for good reason.
Our mission, then, is to unpack that whole incredible journey from her, proud early days on the Yangtze River right through to her final sacrifice off California.
And it's important for you, the listener, to get this. Her story isn't just about, sheer survival. It's about context. The Stewart, she represents this huge shift, from the old Navy, the gunboat diplomacy of the interwar years.
Right, the policing force.
To the absolute brutal reality of World War II. Her popping up again, first in 45 and now, 78 years after her final sinking. It gives historians this tangible link, a unique window into just how complex that war was.
And we have the records to trace it, right? We're not just guessing.
Oh, yeah, we've got detailed accounts. Naval logs, those pilot reports, which are fascinating, salvage records, and now the maritime archaeological analysis from the discovery team itself. It's this whole improbable narrative coming together.
It teaches us a lot, I guess, about naval adaptability, maybe psychological warfare, and definitely about that bond sailors have with their ships.
Absolutely. That loyalty runs deep.
Okay, let's wind the clock back. 1920, the Great War is over, the world's sort of rebuilding, and the U.S. Navy is expanding. Big time.
Yep. Huge naval acts passed. They needed a modern fleet. And that's where the USS Stewart comes in. She's rolled out of the Philadelphia Navy Yard.
What kind of ship was she, specifically?
She was a Clemson-class destroyer, part of this massive class. I think over 150 were built eventually. Designed for speed, maneuverability, 314 feet long. Pretty quick for the time.
These were the destroyers you picture from that era, weren't they? With that very distinct look.
Exactly. That look came down to one main thing. The smokestacks. They had 4. Tall, prominent, right down the center line.
The 4-stackers or 4-pipers.
That's the nickname they got. Affectionately, maybe sometimes critically. But you saw that silhouette, even miles off. Your brain immediately went, American destroyer, pre-war design.
And that visual ID becomes crucial later, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A huge liability, as it turned out.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's commissioned September 15th, 1920. Just missed World War I.
So no immediate combat. What was her role then in those early years?
Well, she wasn't idle. She drew a really important assignment almost straight away. Far East. She became part of the U.S. Asiatic Fleet.
So not training off Hawaii or the West Coast. This was frontline deployment, essentially.
Pretty much. For 2 decades, her life was defined by service in Asia. It wasn't glamorous fleet exercises. It was sustained presence, policing American interests, showing the flag in a really volatile part of the world.
We tend to focus on the big battleships, the carriers later on, but these destroyers, they were doing the day-to-day grind, right?
Absolutely. Tedious, sometimes dangerous work. Her main beat was China, patrolling the Yangtze River, the famous Yangtze Patrol.
That sounds intense. Patrolling a major river in a foreign country with a warship.
It was. The mission itself wasn't new, but during the Stewart's time there, in the 20s and 30s, China was. Well, it was tearing itself apart. Civil war, warlords, bandits. Stability was non-existent.
So the Stewart's job was what? Protecting American citizens? Businesses?
All of the above. Missionaries, trade interests, ensuring American lives weren't caught in the crossfire. They had to navigate this incredibly complex political landscape, be neutral, but ready for, the worst, often anchored right in cities like Shanghai or Nanking.
Imagine the skill needed just to pilot a destroyer up that river, shifting sands, heavy traffic, political tension.
Exactly. And maintaining readiness. drills, gunnery practice, all while being a diplomatic presence. It demanded incredible professionalism from the captain and crew.
And being out there so far from the main fleet bases, it must have forged a unique identity for the Asiatic Fleet crews.
It definitely did. They were seen as seasoned, maybe a bit salty, incredibly resourceful, a sort of military fraternity. In ports like Manila, Shanghai, the Stewart, and ships like her, they earned this reputation. Reliable, tough, the visible sign of American commitment.
And that contrast is so stark, isn't it? This peacetime workhorse, this symbol of stability, suddenly facing annihilation when the world went to war.
Precisely. 20 years of that service, and then December 1941 changes everything. She's perfectly positioned, thousands of miles from support, to be right in the path of the storm.
December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor. The news must have hit the Asiatic Fleet like a physical blow.
Instantly, their world changed. They were based in Manila at the time. The strategic picture went from tense to, well, desperate overnight. The Stewart, she's 21 years old by now, obsolete by naval standards.
And she's part of the small, older fleet facing the full might of the Japanese Navy and Army sweeping south.
Yeah, the Japanese war machine was just rolling. Philippines, Malaya,
Yeah.
falling quickly. The next big prize was the Dutch East Indies, modern Indonesia. Vital resources there, especially oil.
So the Allies scramble to defend it. The ABDA command, right? American, British, Dutch, Australian.
A desperate measure. And the Stewart gets thrown into this combined force. Sources call it a ragtag collection of obsolete warships, basically a speed bump, trying to slow down the inevitable Japanese advance into places like Java and Sumatra in February 42.
And this leads to some incredibly fierce, close quarters fighting, like the Battle of Badung Strait.
Yeah, Badung Strait wasn't like later naval battles with radar and long-range gunnery. This was fought largely in darkness, confused, brutal.
How close are we talking?
Eyewitness accounts say point-blank range, destroyers firing torpedoes and deck guns practically at spitting distance.
That is
Sheer chaos. Tactical desperation versus, frankly, superior Japanese forces and night-fighting doctrine at that stage.
And the Stewart, despite being old, fights hard, but she takes a hit.
A bad one. A Japanese shell, likely from a cruiser or destroyer, smashed into her steering compartment. That's catastrophic for control.
How did she even survive that?
Speaks volumes about the toughness of those old four-stacker hulls, maybe. But mostly, incredible damage control by Captain Henry Wyman and his crew. They somehow kept her afloat, kept some semblance of control, and managed to limp away.
Where did they go?
They made it to Surabaya Harbor on the island of Java, the main Dutch naval base there. Needed emergency repairs, obviously. But the clock was ticking loud.
The Japanese army is closing in on Java while they're trying to patch her up. Must have been frantic.
Absolutely frantic. They got her into the floating dry dock there. The plan was a quick patch job, just enough to get her seaworthy again. But then fate, or maybe just really bad luck, intervened again.
This is the dry dock incident, and it almost sounds like something out of a comedy if it wasn't so tragic.
It's unbelievable. While she's sitting high and dry on the keel blocks, these massive supports that hold the ship up, something went wrong. She slipped or fell.
Fell off the blocks. A whole destroyer.
Yeah, crashed down inside the dry dock. The damage must have been immense. Broken keel, mangled propellers, hull plating buckled. Whatever damage the Japanese shell did was probably minor compared to this.
So crippled in battle, then crippled again by accident in the repair yard. Just devastating for the crew's morale, I imagine.
Utterly demoralizing. They survived this brutal fight only to have their ship effectively destroyed by a freak accident. And now there's absolutely no time left.
The Japanese are at the gates of Surabaya.
Literally. Captain Wyman had no choice. The ship couldn't be saved, couldn't be moved. The only option left was to deny her to the enemy. Scuttling.
The intentional sinking. How did they ensure she couldn't be easily recovered? Because obviously she was recovered later.
Right. Scuttling isn't just opening sea valves. They would have placed demolition charges, TNT, probably at key structural points, bulkheads, engine mounts, and critically inside the engine and boiler rooms. The goal is to wreck the propulsion, the generators, the steering gear, beyond easy repair. Make salvage as difficult and time-consuming as possible.
Did they target the dry dock too?
Yes. Sources say they scuttled the floating dry dock itself along with the Stewart, dropped the whole thing to the bottom of Surabaya Harbor on March 10, 1942. Maximum denial.
And Captain Wyman and the surviving crew?
They escaped Java, incredibly. Managed to get away and eventually rejoin Allied forces. They reported the Stewart scuttled and destroyed.
So as far as the U.S. Navy was concerned, that was it. DD-224 was officially listed as lost in action, struck from the Naval Vessel Register. End of story.
A definitive end. A war loss. That official death certificate is what makes everything that happens next.
Yeah.
Well, ghostly. Every American sailor believed she was gone for good.
But the story wasn't over. Fast forward about a year, February 1943. The Japanese now control the Dutch East Indies, including Surabaya Harbor.
And they need resources. They start a massive salvage operation in the harbor, clearing wrecks, reclaiming materials. They raise several Allied ships that were sunk there. And then they find the Stewart.
Despite the scuttling efforts, they decide she's worth raising.
Against all odds, yes. And this is where it gets really remarkable from an engineering and strategic point of view. Think about it. Why spend huge resources raising a 20-year-old, heavily damaged, scuttled American destroyer?
Especially when they presumably had their own shipyards building new vessels.
Well, several factors. First, utility. The Japanese Navy was powerful, but they were taking losses too, especially in escort vessels. They needed ships fast. Even a damaged hull like the Stewart's could potentially be repaired and pressed into service quicker than building new.
Okay, so practicality. Any other reason?
Symbolism, definitely. Imagine the propaganda value, the psychological boost of successfully salvaging, repairing, and operating a captured enemy warship, flying the rising sun from a former American destroyer.
A trophy of war put back into service against its former owners.
Precisely. So Japanese engineers went to work. It must have been a huge job, repairing the hull damage from the fall, replacing the wrecked American machinery with Japanese systems.
What kind of changes did they make? Did they keep the American guns?
No, couldn't use American ammo or parts easily. They would have removed the original U.S. Navy 4-inch guns. Sources suggest they replaced them with Japanese standard weapons, maybe 5-inch guns, or, more likely, a focus on anti-aircraft armament, which was desperately needed by then.
And the silhouette, those 4 iconic stacks, did they change that?
This is key. Reports indicate they did modify the stacks, probably removed or shortened 2 of them, maybe for stability, maybe to simplify the new Japanese engine exhaust systems. It changed her look, streamlined her a bit.
But not enough to make her unrecognizable.
Apparently not. The fundamental hull shape, the mass structure, that Clemson-class profile, it was still there, even with only 2 stacks. Still distinct enough.
So the repairs are done, and on March 15, 1943, she's officially recommissioned into the Imperial Japanese Navy.
As what? Patrol boat number 102, or Daya 102 Gosho Kaitai. PB 102 for short. The rising sun flag goes up. It's an incredibly eerie moment in naval history.
The ultimate turnabout.
And the Japanese knew what they had. They were smart about using her, initially. They tried to keep PB 102 away from direct encounters with Allied surface ships, destroyers, cruisers.
Why? Because she'd be instantly recognized.
Exactly. An American skipper seeing even a modified 4-stacker profile would know something was wrong. It would draw immediate attention, probably intense fire.
But they couldn't hide her from planes.
Nope. The sky was becoming increasingly dominated by Allied aircraft. U.S. Navy carrier planes, Army Air Forces bombers on reconnaissance. They covered vast areas.
And starting in late 43, early 44, the sightings begin.
That's right. American submarine commanders patrolling deep in supposedly secure Japanese waters. And even more often, Navy pilots flying recon missions over the Japanese home islands themselves in the inland sea off the coast of Kyushu. They started reporting something impossible.
They saw what looked like an American 4-stack destroyer.
That's what they reported. Now put yourself in that pilot's boots. You're exhausted, maybe hours into a dangerous mission over enemy territory. You see a ship below, and it looks familiar, like one of yours. But it can't be. Not here.
So you report it back at base, and the reaction?
Disbelief, dismissal. You're told, essentially, you're seeing ghosts, or you're mistaken, or it must be fatigue. Because officially, DD-224 is at the bottom of Surabaya Harbor. No such ship could exist deep inside Japan's defenses.
That must have been incredibly frustrating, even psychologically damaging for those pilots. They knew what they saw.
Immense self-doubt, confusion. These were trained observers. To have your command tell you your eyes are lying, it created this weird pocket of uncertainty.
And the sources suggest the Japanese actually learned to use this confusion.
It seems so. It became a sort of unintentional or maybe even intentional psychological warfare. If an American pilot spotted PB-102, there might be that split second of hesitation. Is it? Could it possibly be?
That hesitation could be fatal in combat, or just prevent an attack altogether.
Exactly. Attack a potential friendly. The nightmare scenario. So PB-102, this ghost ship, created ambiguity. It disrupted targeting. It confused intelligence reports. She served Japan not just as a patrol boat, but as a phantom, protected by the sheer impossibility of her existence.
Sailing the inland sea while officially resting at the bottom of a harbor halfway across the world, A true ghost ship.
But ghosts can't sail forever. By 1945, the war in the Pacific had shifted dramatically. Allied air power was overwhelming.
And pilots were probably less likely to hesitate by then. Assume hostile until proven otherwise.
Pretty much. In April 1945, American bombers caught up with Patrol Boat 102, found her anchored in Mokpo on the coast of Korea.
And this time, they hit her.
They hit her hard, bombed her significantly. But true to form for this ship, she was damaged severely, but she didn't sink. The resilience of that hull is just incredible.
Still afloat after all that. What did the Japanese do?
They managed to get her seaworthy enough to sail her back to Japan, to their main naval base at Kure. The plan was, yet again, to repair her.
But time ran out.
The war ended first. August 15, 1945, Japan surrenders. And soon after, American occupation forces arrive at Kure. The base is devastated. A graveyard of the Imperial Japanese Navy, sunken carriers, cruisers, wreckage everywhere.
And amidst all that ruin,
They find her, docked or anchored somewhere in the chaos, an American four-stack destroyer. Or what's left of one, heavily modified, bearing the scars of battle under two flags. It must have been a shock.
finding the USS Stewart DD-224, the ship that officially didn't exist anymore.
Exactly. The reaction, according to Dr. James Delgado, who studied this extensively, wasn't just surprise, it was respect, almost awe. This ship had been through hell and back, served two enemies, and somehow she was still here.
We wanted to treat her honorably, Delgado noted. She'd earned it.
Absolutely. So they decided to reclaim her properly. On October 29, 1945, in a formal ceremony at Kure, the American flag was raised over her deck once more.
Recommissioned into the U.S. Navy.
Yes, but symbolically. For one final journey, her official designation at that point was simply DD-224 without name, acknowledging her unique broken history. No longer Stewart, but still DD-224.
Could she sail on her own after the bombing in Korea and years of hard service?
No chance. Her machinery was shot, damaged by the original scuttling, the fall in the dry dock, the Japanese conversion, probably running systems past their limits, and then the 1945 bombing. She was just a hull.
So how did she get back to the States?
She had to be towed. A long, slow journey across the Pacific. The fleet tug USS Wesson and other Navy tugs basically dragged her home. It took months. Her final silent patrol.
Arriving back in San Francisco Bay in March 1946, what kind of reception did she get?
It wasn't just about recovering a piece of equipment. It was emotional. Former crew members, men who had served on her during those pre-war Yangtze patrol days, they came to see her.
Like Captain Charles L. Best, her old skipper.
Yeah, the story goes he traveled up from San Diego just to be there, to see his old command again. It really hits that point Delgado made.
The Navy's always been like a family, and you never forget your old ship. It was like welcoming back a long-lost, battle-scarred veteran.
But she couldn't be repaired or put back into service. Her fighting days were well and truly over.
Completely over. But the Navy realized her incredible survival story, her sheer toughness, offered one last service, one final lesson.
She became a test subject, a target.
A target for science, yes. May 24, 1946. Towed out about 30 miles off San Francisco. And observers noted even then, you could still see traces of her Japanese modifications beneath the peeling paint. Maybe evidence of the rising sun emblem painted amidships. Her whole conflicted history was visible right to the end.
And the Navy didn't just sink her quickly. They used her for controlled tests.
For over 2 hours, apparently. This was about gathering data, post-war naval science. They hit her with everything. Aerial rockets, machine guns, different types of naval gunfire, probably standard 5-inch shells. Why? What were they trying to learn from destroying this old destroyer?
Hull integrity. Weapon effectiveness. Where were the weak points on these older destroyer designs? How much punishment could they actually take before succumbing? They recorded every hit, every penetration, every structural failure.
So even in death, she was serving the Navy, providing data that could save lives in the future by informing ship design.
That's exactly it. She was teaching lessons about compartmentalization, about structural resilience, about the flaws in those older designs, knowledge that would feed into the new destroyers being designed for the Cold War. Paying it forward, you could say.
Finally, after absorbing all that punishment, battered beyond recognition.
She slipped beneath the waves for the very last time, sank in about 3,500 feet of water, came to rest on the seabed in what's now the Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary, a final burial at sea with full honors for the ship that just wouldn't stay dead.
And there she lay, undisturbed, for 78 years, protected by the crushing depth and the cold darkness, until August 1st, 2024.
Right. And the discovery wasn't even initially about finding the Stewart specifically, as I understand it. It was a collaboration. The vessel Ocean Infinity was out there testing new deep-sea survey technology.
Cutting-edge stuff. These autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, robots scanning the seabed without direct human control.
Exactly. That's the key here. 3,500 feet is way beyond divers. These AUVs, equipped with high-resolution sonar, synthetic aperture sonar, I believe can map vast areas of the ocean floor systematically and, importantly, quickly.
Andy Sherrill from Ocean Infinity mentioned that, didn't he? Covering a big area fast.
Yeah, he said they scanned something like 37 square nautical miles very quickly and in high resolution. It shows how technology is unlocking these underwater historical sites that were previously unreachable.
So the AUV sonar picks up an anomaly, a target that looks promising. How do they confirm it's actually DD-224?
That's the next step. You send out an ROV, a remote-operated vehicle, tethered, camera-equipped, gives you eyes on the target.
And the moment those ROV cameras focused on the wreck,
It was unmistakable, even after nearly 8 decades underwater. Reports say she's resting upright, almost looking like she was carefully placed on the seabed, remarkably preserved in the cold, low-oxygen deep water.
and the defining features, those 4 stacks.
Still recognizable. Damaged, sure, from the final sinking and probably time, but the structure is there. The overall hull shape, largely intact. It's an underwater time capsule.
And you can literally see her history written on her metal skin, can't you?
That's what makes this find so incredible for historians and archaeologists. You can see the battle damage from that final 1946 test, the shell holes, the blast marks. You can likely trace older scars, maybe from Badung Strait. And crucially, you can see physical evidence of the Japanese modifications.
The changes they made when she was Patrol Boat 102, mountings for different guns, altered superstructure.
Exactly. All 3 phases of her life: U.S. Navy pre-war, Imperial Japanese Navy wartime, and U.S. Navy post-war test target are physically present on that wreck.
Dr. James Delgado really summed up the significance, didn't he? It's more than just finding an old ship.
He did. He called it a unique opportunity to study early 20th century destroyer design, perfectly preserved. For naval architects, it's invaluable. But more broadly, her whole story makes her this powerful symbol of the Pacific War's complexity. She connects adversaries, eras, technologies.
A bridge between enemies, as you said. Haunted by history, by the memories of all the sailors, American and Japanese, who served on her, or fought against her.
And now she rests. Protected as a historical site, 3,500 feet down, the ghost ship of the Pacific has finally found her peace. #OTRO.
What a story. The USS Stewart starts as a guardian on the Yangtze, gets caught in the storm of war, scuttled by her own crew.
He seems like the end, but it's just the beginning of the strangest chapter.
Right. Rises from the dead to serve the enemy as Patrol Boat 102. Confuses Allied pilots, becomes this literal ghost ship.
A phantom protected by disbelief.
Then gets reclaimed, brought home not as a prize, but as a veteran, welcomed back by her old crew.
That final symbolic voyage home under tow.
And makes one last contribution. Gives her life as a target, teaching the Navy lessons to save future sailors. She really is the ship that served 2 flags, survived 2 sinking events, and delivered one final, vital service.
It's an unparalleled naval saga. And thinking about her final resting place, it adds another layer. This ship, born for conflict, witness to the worst of war, now lies in a national marine sanctuary. Protected waters.
From war zone to sanctuary, there's some powerful symbolism there.
It really is, and it makes you think, doesn't it? This incredible piece of history, this time capsule, was hidden in the deep ocean for 78 years. Only found now because our technology finally caught up, allowing us to systematically search these previously inaccessible depths.
So the provocative thought for you, our listeners.
Yeah, what else is down there? What other forgotten wrecks, holding untold stories, maybe challenging our understanding of history, are waiting in the deep, protected by the sheer scale of the ocean, just waiting for the next generation of AUVs or ROVs to stumble upon them and bring their stories back to the surface? The deep ocean might be the world's largest, most unexplored museum.